Everybody, it's Meteorologist Noah Simmons, just going to give a more in-depth look at the expected wintry weather. I'm sure it's on a lot of people's minds. You know, what are we going to get? Are we going to get ice? Are we going to get sleet? How much snow are we going to get? Is my Apple Weather app right? We're going to talk about all those questions here, and we're just going to go, right through it here. And I'm going to talk about it here for the next maybe 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how long I like to talk. Of course, this is actually my favorite subject, is winter weather. It's actually how I got passionate in, meteorology. So let's kind of get right into it. First thing I want to mention is that the winter storm watch that we were under the last couple of days, that got upgraded to a winter storm warning. You see any areas in the pink, that is that winter storm warning. No matter where you go in the state of Arkansas, you're going to be impacted by some sort of wintry precipitation. Is that snow? Is that sleet? Is that freezing rain? We're going to tackle that here in the next couple of minutes. We're still going to be talking, though, about some heavy snowfall accumulations in parts of our region, mixed with some heavy sleet accumulations as well. And really, no matter where you are, we're going to be expecting those travel disruptions. This winter storm warning goes into effect Friday afternoon and then last all the way through your Sunday. So definitely going to be talking about some travel issues here. And it's not just here in Arkansas and Oklahoma. This storm is a mammoth. You have winter storm warnings in central New Mexico, stretch all the way, winter storm warnings, almost the whole entire state of Oklahoma, much of Texas, almost the whole state of Arkansas with the exception of some ice storm warnings, almost the whole state of Kentucky. I mean, we're talking major cities, major hubs. If you plan on flying Saturday, Sunday, even Monday as that system progresses east, good luck, because there's going to be lots of issues. If you don't plan on flying, good luck driving. Definitely take it slow, especially if you're under some of these areas in pink. Those are winter storm warnings. You kind of see, though, these alerts stretch as far south as almost Baton Rouge, Louisiana there. You kind of see that light grayish purple or light grayish blue area. That's a winter storm watch. Those winter storm watches go as far east as the eastern seaboard. I'm talking Philly, D.C., New York City, Boston. That's how big this system is. It's going to be impacting over 100 million people, which is very staggering to talk about. So we're going to be talking about widespread impacts across much of the United States. Now, how does that impact here close to home in Arkansas and Oklahoma? Well, if we kind of pinpoint the timing, we're still looking at Friday afternoon all the way into Sunday morning. And we're talking about probably two distinct waves here. It's not going to be snowing or sleeting or anything like that continuously Friday afternoon to Sunday morning. There's going to be a break in the action. So we're going to be talking about two distinct waves. In terms of the precip type, we're going to be talking about snow/sleet and even a slight probability of seeing some icing, especially the further south you go in places like Scott County, Southern LaFleur County. We'll touch on that here in just a minute. And really, it's going to be talking about some sleet mixing the further south you go. Impacts, whether you get sleet first, whether you start getting snow first, whether you get a light glazing of ice, the impacts are still going to be relatively the same. Roads are going to be pretty treacherous out there. Reduced visibility at times, especially with some of the blowing snow. We'll have wind gusts upwards of maybe 30 miles an hour. That could cause, some blowing snow. And then if the winter weather wasn't already enough to talk about, we got some cold temperatures. In fact, some dangerous cold to talk about. So just a lot to get to. And let's actually focus in on precipitation type and what exactly is going to fall. We actually updated this map this morning and kind of looked at some data and kind of crunched some numbers to figure out, what's the best possible scenario, at least at this point in time. We focus in on the dark blue, mainly, from I-40 north. That mainly favors snow. You could have a tiny bit of sleet mix in that dark blue, but it's going to be mainly a snow event. That's where we're expecting our heaviest snow accumulations as well. As you get kind of just south of I-40, we're going to be talking about more sleet mixing in, potentially a light glaze of ice. And then once we get further south you go, you see that area in pink there. Talking about communities such as Heavener, Y-City, of course, Waldron, and Scott County. That's going to be mainly sleet, a little bit of ice, and then potentially some snow on the backside of that, especially with that second wave that kind of moves through late Saturday into Sunday. So let's kind of talk about it here on Futurecast. It's probably what a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen here. Friday morning, Futurecast shows we're dry. So you got to take your kids to school. You're heading off to work. Friday morning should have no issues. And even Friday midday, we'll go and drag it all the way till about lunchtime here. Maybe you're on your lunch break. It should still be mainly dry. Now, models, they're not perfect, but they usually give us a general idea. There's a slight probability that we could get some very light precipitation, maybe some snow flurries, maybe some patchy, ice pellets. But overall, that wouldn't really, factor into the impact, especially with those very light amounts. Again, the impacts look to be Friday evening, Friday night, and then lasting all the way through Saturday, Sunday, of course. So kind of just want to highlight that most of Friday looks dry. even Friday afternoon, this is 3:30. Maybe we're picking kids up from school. Maybe you're worried that your kid's going to be stranded at school because the precip's going to start early. That looks unlikely to be happening. It looks like the precip starts mainly into the late afternoon and probably into the early evening hours as we kind of drag this out until about 6 to 7 p.m. there on your Friday evening. Notice some of those pinks mixed with a little bit of snow kind of moving their way into the river valley just south of I-40 here once you get to that dinner time hour, that evening hour. So to reiterate, most of Friday looks dry until we start getting to the late afternoon. That's where things can get a little interesting, especially the further southwest you go. Once we kind of get to about Friday evening, Friday night, about 9, 10 o'clock, notice some heavier pockets of snow starting to develop in northwest Arkansas. I think that's when everyone starts to get in on some of that heavier precipitation. This is going to be our first wave that moves through Friday night, lasting all the way through Saturday morning. You kind of see that line of sleet, maybe mixed with a tiny bit of freezing rain the further south you go. That looks to be confined, just south of I-40. And that line could wobble, and you'll kind of see that here in Futurecast. This is in the middle of the night, Friday into Saturday morning. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be sleeping. I'm probably still going to be awake because this gets me excited. I think this is cool. But of course, there's going to be some impacts come Saturday morning. Once you get to about, 7 to 9 a.m., we still could have some snow lingering. This model wants to have the precip ending, at least with the first wave, ending, fairly early in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if that, the snow and maybe some sleet hangs around a little bit longer there during the day of Saturday. But it does look like we'll have a lull in the precipitation some point Saturday. I think the best time that we'll get that lull would probably be Saturday afternoon into Saturday early evening before our next second wave moves in. Here's about 6:30 in the evening. So the precip might stop Saturday afternoon. I'm sure there's going to be someone out there saying, oh, wow, we only got, a few inches of snow. Well, that was a busted forecast. We got another wave to either look forward to or to kind of deal with their Saturday night into Sunday morning. So here's Saturday, 6:30 in the evening. Notice that sleet line wanting to get pushed up a little bit further north. I still think most of northwest Arkansas stays mainly under snow, but as we kind of work our way into early Sunday morning, I think everyone starts getting on the backside of that snow by Sunday morning. So some areas, along and south of I-40 start with sleet there at that second wave, but then kind of transition to snow, especially after midnight Saturday into early Sunday morning. So I do think areas still going to be picking up at least somewhat snow. It obviously just depends on where you are, who's going to pick up those heaviest accumulations. But we'll, of course, watch that, with those heavier sleet accumulations and those snowfall accumulations. Sleet doesn't accumulate the same as snow. Snow's a little bit more fluffier. Sleet has a different density than snow, so sleet piles up much differently. It has different snow-to-liquid ratios. Oftentimes you hear us say, your snow-to-liquid ratio is 10 to 1. So for every, 1 inch of liquid, it equals 10 inches of snow. Probably not necessarily the case for this system. With our SLR is going to be fluctuating throughout this system, especially with the cold air. So, that's kind of just something interesting. I like to kind of talk about snow liquid ratios, and you kind of see that sleet and snow and maybe the potential for seeing some freezing rain. And I'll get to talk about, why we could see that possibility here, especially with the temperatures throughout the atmosphere. But really, our snow sleet totals here, we've kind of tweaked them just a little bit. If you recall, yesterday we had northwest Arkansas 7 to 10, so increased it just slightly, just have a higher confidence in, those higher snowfall amounts and those, favorable snow-to-liquid ratios with that snow that we're expecting. And then once you kind of get maybe just south of I-40, we're talking about 4 to 8 inches. And all of these totals you see on the map, these include snow and sleet. Again, sleet cuts into some of your snowfall totals, and it kind of makes it hard to measure the snow, especially when you have a big, thick layer of sleet at the surface and at the ground. So we're going to be talking about, I think, generally 4 to 8 inches. It could get refined here the next 24 hours before that precip starts Friday evening, but I think that's what we're thinking about right now. And then you see that light blue shade that slices through southern Lafleur County, encompasses pretty much of Scott County, and then maybe just the southern fringes of Logan County and the southern fringes of Sebastian County. That light blue, it says less than 4 inches. That does not mean we're getting, up to 4 inches of all ice, of all sleet. That's not going to be the case. I think most of it would probably be sleet. We probably get maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow as that second wave kind of moves through the backside of that. We get a little bit of snow. And then icing potential, it looks low. The better icing potential still looks in southern and southeast Arkansas. We still have to talk about that potential in places like Heebner, potentially Poto, Waldron, of seeing some light icing near 1/10 of an inch of ice. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to actually have another update on my Facebook about that icing potential. I'm going to show you a certain model map product that we typically don't show on air, but I'll show you that here on my Facebook later this afternoon. Come up with another video update, just a very short one. But overall, I think that's what we can expect overall Friday evening to Sunday. And these snow and sleet totals, these would be reached after everything's done there once we get to Sunday midday. So again, the precipits could stop there Saturday afternoon. We'll have a lull. But again, everything is taken into account there all the way through Sunday midday. You're probably asking yourself, well, the temperature's so cold. I mean, we're going to be seeing highs, what, in the teens, the lower 20s. You're probably thinking, well, how come it's not all snow? It's so cold. Why is it all snow? Why do we have to talk about sleet and freezing rain? Well, it's an excellent question, and a lot of people I don't think realize this, but if you look at our wintry weather types, we'll start talking about rain. Obviously, we all know what rain is. It's the liquid form. But as you go, several and really a few thousand feet up in the air, it starts as little snowflakes because, you're so cold in the air, you're about the altitude that jetliners fly out, so it's very cold. And so it starts as snowflakes, but as you kind of get, throughout the middle layers of the atmosphere and the lower levels of the atmosphere, obviously it's above freezing and all that snow melts, and so we're just left with liquid rain. Things get interesting when we start talking about freezing rain. In fact, freezing rain, it still starts out as snow. Everything's starting out as snow way up in the atmosphere. It encounters, though, a warm layer of air. When I say warm layer of air, I'm talking above freezing. So, yeah, your temperatures at the surface might be, freezing or just below freezing, but you go, a few or several thousand feet in the atmosphere, they're actually well above freezing. So that snowflake, what it does is it starts way in the atmosphere, it falls, it encounters that big warm layer of air, it melts a little bit, it melts so much it becomes a super cooled liquid water droplet, and then eventually once it reaches either the surface or just above the surface, if temperatures are either at 32 or just below 32, it freezes on everything in contact. So freezing rain quite literally looks like plain rain. You can't get freezing rain, though, if your temperature is above 32 degrees, obviously because your surface is above that freezing point. So that's how freezing rain happens, forms, and accumulates, obviously with everything below freezing there. When we talk about sleet, are we dealing with a lot of that there the next 48 to 72 hours? Again, we're still starting with snow, very high in the atmosphere. It encounters a warm layer of air, but notice that warm layer of air, it's not as deep as, say, that freezing rain. So it encounters more of a shallow layer of warm air. It still melts, but then once it kind of moves its way closer to the surface, it's still much colder, and so that little droplet that's kind of melted, it refreezes completely over again. So it's not a super cool liquid water droplet. It is now frozen over, and it basically becomes a little pellet of ice, and that's exactly what it is. That is sleet, and that's what happens when you get sleet. And of course, snow, well, you're pretty much below freezing, whether you're 30,000 feet in the air all the way down to the surface. So that's how you can get snow. So pretty interesting stuff. And that's what we're talking about, wintry weather. Hopefully I broke that down into easy manners. And it's pretty typical, with systems like this, you can kind of ingest warm air aloft, overriding some of that cold air, and that's exactly how you can get precip types like sleet, like freezing rain. So something interesting out there. The other interesting thing is that temperatures are going to be this cold, and that's going to be giving us probably a little bit of a drier snow out there. So yeah, the snow might start a little bit more on the wetter side, but it transitions to a pretty dry, powdery snow just because our snow to liquid ratios are going to be a bit higher. Temperatures are going to be much colder. Saturday, Sunday, highs in northwest Arkansas, they're only into the teens. So that's pretty darn cold when you factor in the wind chills. Not going to be helping us out by any means. Looks like that snow wraps up sometime in the morning into the midday there on Sunday. If we look at the river valley, not much better. Highs into the lower 20s Saturday, only near 20 on Sunday. More of that dry, fluffy, powdery snow. Could be breezy at times Saturday. That could transition in some of those very cold wind chills out there. And in fact, speaking of those wind chills, let's talk about the wind chill. This is Saturday morning potential wind chill. It's going to be a bit more windier, a bit more breezier. So we could have wind chills in the single digits in the river valley, potentially well below zero there in northwest Arkansas. Very cold if you plan, on heading outdoors. Maybe you're playing, with your kids in the snow or whatnot. Make sure they're bundled up adequately because, we haven't seen this type of cold in quite some time. Sunday morning, probably have some more cloud cover, some falling snow, also lighter winds. So our temperatures aren't as cold, our winds aren't as strong. So wind chills, they're about maybe just below zero in northwest Arkansas. They're into the single digits and maybe the lower teens in the river valley. And then once we get to Monday morning, we'll have that sleet and snowpack on the ground. We'll probably have some clearing sky. And we'll still have light winds, but it doesn't really take much to add to a pretty nasty wind chill out there. Wind chills as much as 10 to 15 degrees below zero for Monday morning. again, there's not going to be too much melting happening this weekend. And, when your wind chills are that cold in the morning for any kids having to go to school, in the event that schools are still in session on Monday, it's going to be very cold out there, and it's going to be cold Tuesday morning as well. So, it's kind of like something with two prongs. I kind of just butchered that saying, but there's basically two sides of the system. It's the wintry weather, and of course, it's the dangerous cold behind it. And speaking of the cold, we have an extreme cold warning. Basically just means wind chills as low as 15 degrees below zero. Frostbite, especially if you're, exposed, pretty long outside, could happen about 30 minutes. So make sure you have, you're covered up. You're still fine, if you get out of your car and, you walk to the grocery store there, on Monday or something, you're still fine. I mean, 5 minutes isn't going to hurt you in this type of cold. Obviously, make sure you get the winter coat, but yeah, it's definitely going to be, a cold one out there. And really, just to reiterate, we're still in that weather impact alert. Friday afternoon and Sunday morning, the impact, it's going to be snow, sleet, maybe a little bit of freezing rain, especially the further south you go in our far southern counties. Very cold temperatures behind it, kind of breezy at times, impacting that wind chill out there. And what we really need to do is plan for travel issues. There's going to be travel issues, whether you get more snow versus more sleet. Expect some minor changes into the forecast. Again, we're still refining it. Winter weather is one of the hardest things to predict because you're trying to, forecast temperatures not just at the surface. You're trying to forecast your liquid amount that's going to fall, factor in your snow to liquid ratios, how heavy your snowfall rates are they going to overcome, certain other elements. Are you going to have sleet that kind of eat in this, totals? So, we're pulling our hair out here in the Weather Impact Center. I enjoyed it. It's a good challenge. I try my best. We all try our best here at the 5 News Weather Impact Center, and we obviously want the best and the most accurate forecast. And as we look throughout the next several days, you'll see temperatures really start to plummet there on Friday. Snow moves in late Friday evening and then continues into Saturday. We get a lull in the precipitation, though, picking back up Saturday evening again. Sunday starts to wrap up midday. And those very cold temperatures, highs only to the 20s there on Monday. And yes, that is an actual air temperature low of 7 degrees below zero for Monday morning. And yeah, we get above freezing next Tuesday and Wednesday, but we get well below freezing at night, especially with that snow and sleet pack. So yeah, we might have some melting going on, but once we get into the evening and overnight hours, all that stuff just refreezes, especially with those cold temperatures. For the River Valley, we'll get to about near 40 there on Friday. Once you get to about Saturday, Sunday, highs only near 20 degrees. Wind chills are going to be close to zero, even below zero Monday morning. Look at Monday mornings, though. 3 below zero. I got to double check what the record low temperature is for Monday morning for the River Valley and Northwest Arkansas, because we could be awfully close there to some record low territory. And then again, Tuesday morning, that's cold, 8 degrees. So I don't want to discount Tuesday morning as well. And it's just going to be very cold. That snow and sleet, it looks to stick around for a while, especially when you have these big accumulations to talk about, which is exactly what we're going to be seeing this weekend. So definitely lots to talk about here. We'll have more updates throughout your Thursday afternoon, your Thursday evening, as well as your Friday. We're going to be providing lots of coverage here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll have the whole weather team. We're going to be having lots of staff members on board here Saturday, Sunday throughout the winter storm to kind of keep you updated on the latest and what is changing. In the meantime, though, have a great rest of your Thursday and have a great weekend, everybody.